The Nightlords have invaded Limveld, and it's up to you and your fellow Nightfarers to stop them in their tracks. My name is Kodiak, this is Legacy Gaming, and today we're sharing our secrets to getting OP every run in Elden Ring Nightreign. Nightreign is a fascinating game, one that rewards skillful execution, but also speed and efficiency, and to get truly OP during a run, you need to master all three. Our goal with this video after playing the game and beating the final boss is to help you make better use of your time in the game so that you can squeeze every drop of runes and loot out of each run, putting you in a better position to be successful when confronting that expedition's boss. Before starting an expedition, you'll want to make sure to check your relics, making sure they're adjusted based on the boss you're about to fight. Each boss is weak to a specific type of damage, and by changing around your relics, you can put yourself in a better position before ever killing an enemy. You'll also want to prioritize completing any available remembrance events. These can be activated in your journal and are tied to individual characters. These usually start with some dialogue in Round Table Hold, then require you to complete a side activity and boss fight during an expedition. You'll want to look at your map to find the location of the event, but once you do that, you'll receive an item, which you can turn in back in Round Table Hold, rewarding you with a powerful new relic and potentially a new chalice. These relics are far superior to the ones you get at the end of a normal expedition, which is why you should try and complete these as soon as possible. Now, with the prep work done, it's time to jump into an expedition, and from the literal second you hit the ground, your brain needs to be working overtime to chart a path with your team that's going to net you the most runes and opportunities for gear. Once you hit the ground, there is always going to be a small enemy camp nearby. You'll want to do that immediately because it grants you just enough runes to reach level 2, which doesn't sound that important, but is absolutely essential to your success. Clear the camp and find the nearby site of grace to quickly reach the next level. Make sure to try and scoop up any consumable items within that camp, which might be useful later on. Don't waste time sifting through them though, just break the boxes and spam pickup. From here, it's less clear what you should be doing, and depending on the map layout and where the game drops you on the map, you're going to have access to a number of different points of interest. Churches are going to be your North Star, and for the most part, you're going to want to travel in the direction of the closest church because those grant you one additional charge in your flask. You'll want to aim to have as many, if not all, of the churches complete by the end of the second day. By doing that, you maximize the amount of healing you have for the expedition boss. Now, you're not just going to run from one church to the next. That's a huge waste of time and would most likely require you to cross huge parts of the map inefficiently. Instead, you're going to want to move around the map either clockwise or counterclockwise, hitting as many points of interest as you can first. In a perfect scenario, you'd hit every POI before the end of the second day, but that's almost impossible, which is why you have to prioritize which spots to hit up and when. As you're moving towards each of the churches, you'll want to try and hit the major points of interest along the way, but there are some very important rules of thumb to consider. Great churches are one of our favorite early spots to hit. Not only are the bosses incredibly easy to kill, but this location always guarantees a stone sword key, something we'll talk about shortly. Great churches come in two different layout varieties, with the boss either upstairs within the main area of the church or underground in the catacombs. If you get the underground version of the Great Church, you'll also have access to some faith-based items located on an altar within the tunnel, which is great, especially early on if you're running with characters that can utilize those items. After each boss kill, you'll want to make sure to hit the site of grace that spawns nearby. Not only does this refill your flasks, health, and FP bars, but making sure you're leveling up as soon as possible has a snowballing power effect. The sooner you level up, the more damage you do, and the faster you can clear content. With that early stone sword key, you can take it immediately to the closest Everjail. This is a straightforward boss encounter that is essential if you hope to come close to reaching the max level. Once you complete the boss fight, you'll be offered your typical reward, but Everjails are the only event that rewards a flat rune bonus, either 10,000, 20,000, or in the rare instance, 30,000 runes, depending on the rarity of the reward. If you manage to pick up multiple stone sword keys during your run, you'll want to make the time to hit up multiple Everjails. If you activate these during day 1, the boss will spawn with half health, but you're almost always guaranteed the blue tier reward, 10,000 runes. If you wait to activate these during day 2, then the boss will have a full health bar, but you'll also have a better chance at the purple tier reward, 20,000 runes. At some point during day 1, your path will most likely run you through the central part of the map, and this is when you can take the extra time to clear out the castle. However, we're not going to do the entire thing yet. In my opinion, the castle is the single most deadly but also lucrative point of interest in the game. Within its walls are multiple bosses and elite enemies that reward runes and loot, which is why it's such an awesome place to farm during the first day. You'll want to start at the lowest point down in the river because that's where you can pick up the buff from the rune tree, increasing the amount of runes you obtain from enemies for a limited time. Now, as a small aside, the gold pickled foulfoot and the silver pickled foulfoot are items you should actively be looking for. The gold version juices your rune rate for a short period of time, and the silver version gives you an increased chance of finding higher rarity gear. With the rune buff activated, you'll head inside the castle via the sewers and take on your first boss. Most boss locations in the game have a fixed roster of bosses you could potentially fight, so what you see in our footage might not be the boss that you encounter, just keep that in mind. Defeating the sewer boss gives you access to the area at the far end of the room. Follow that up until you eventually reach a small armory. Inside the main chest there is a guaranteed talisman. At any time you can have 2 talismans equipped, and just like in the base game, these can drastically change how powerful you are. From the armory, you'll want to head to the upper walls because up there are a series of multiple elites that you can kill in quick succession for runes and loot. Now, fair warning, these enemies also rotate, and if you get the trolls that throw those massive exploding pots, you'll need to be way more careful as they can quite literally yeet these across the castle and catch you by surprise. Killing the boss in the sewer and the elites up top is all you'll want to do if you're tackling the castle on day 1 when you're lower level. If you choose to come back to the castle because you naturally move that way, you can make your way to the very top via the stairs in the main building, and you can fight one of the greater bosses, which obviously rewards you with more runes and better loot. Across the board, we found that fighting these greater bosses during day 1 was a huge mistake, not because we couldn't kill it, but because we were so under-leveled that it usually took way too long to actually get it down, time we could have spent clearing out other points of interest for a better return on our time. There is something important to keep in mind though. Bosses in Nightreign don't regain their HP even if you disengage with them. They are leashed to that part of the world, but if you decide to stop fighting a boss midway through, maybe because the night is closing in, you can go back to that boss later and it'll still have the same amount of health. We actually took advantage of that multiple times throughout our runs, especially with the great bosses near the collapse point of the Night's Tide. We would sink as much damage into the boss as possible before the night overran the area, then we would come back to finish that boss once day 2 started, giving us a quick and lucrative kill going into the second farming period. During that second day, it's important to keep working through the points of interest on the map, obviously making sure the path takes you to each of the remaining churches. The key is to not get bogged down, and there are certain points of interest like the runes and the main encampments, which can slow you down drastically. They're still worth doing if they're on the way, but focus on killing the boss or bosses in each area as quickly as possible, only worrying about the little guys if they're directly in your way. These points of interest are more sprawling than some of the others, which can naturally cause your team to spread out, and while that's okay to a degree, divide and conquer isn't a terrible strategy within reason. You don't want these locations to be time sinks. One variation you'll want to keep an eye out for are the flame chariots in the main encampments, which you can easily kill thanks to the new vaulting mechanic. Simply double jump off the back of them and use light attacks to trigger the instant kill animation. I should also mention that during the second day, you'll have to remember that this is your last shot at all of those outer points of interest. You can always run and complete POIs as you're moving towards the Night Tide's collapse point, usually towards the center, but you won't get another crack at those outer locations again, so take that into consideration. At this point in the game during day 2, you also need to seriously consider the weapons that you're using. Hopefully the RNG gods have blessed you with fortunate drops, but if they haven't, you'll also want to seriously consider hitting up a mine. Inside is always one elite, either a pumpkinhead, troll, or knight that is carrying an epic smithing stone. You can use this to upgrade any of your blue rare items into purple epic items, and it's a strategy you'll want to proactively talk about with your team because in some cases it won't be needed. Outside of the elite enemy, you'll want to ignore practically everything else in the mine, especially the diggers, which are way tankier than they have any right to be. During the second day is also when you'll want to consider doing any shifting earth events. When active, these inject one of 4 different scenarios into the existing map, and while they're all unique, the most lucrative one is the crater, which adds a Mount Gelmir style pit right in the middle of the northern part of the map. It's a long way down, with multiple elites and even a praetor boss you'll need to fight before you can reach the very bottom. There, before an altar, you'll fight a magma worm, and once defeated, you'll be able to interact with the altar, converting one of your weapons into a legendary. If you have this shifting earth in your game, this is a required point of interest, as the rewards, both weapons and runes, are unparalleled. So let's zoom out. Your goal, which is the same no matter what expedition you're doing, is the following. Reach level 15 before you fight the final boss, have a weapon that scales best with your character and does increased damage based on the final boss's weakness, which you can check when queuing up for an expedition, and have a decent lineup of items that can help you in that final fight. If you follow what we've talked about in this video, you should be able to achieve all three with ease, but I don't want to leave you hanging if you have any questions, so do me a solid, leave us a comment down below, or better yet, join us on Discord. Myself and Livid answer any and all pings in our community, and we'd be happy to help you guys out. As always, if you appreciate the work that goes into making these guides, do me a solid, hit that thumbs up, and consider subscribing. We'll have more Elden Ring Nightreign in your feed, so keep it here and never miss a thing. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.